They're wondering, perhaps for the DA or for the sheriff, they're wondering why does implementation of Prop 36 vary so much from county to county, it seems?
Well, I can tell you in LA County, we're solid. We're doing very well from a teamwork perspective. I don't know from a DA's perspective if you're seeing a difference with different DAs from county to county, but the sheriffs around us, with Orange County to the south, Ventura County to the north, San Bernardino and Riverside to the east, we're basically in lockstep.
And I would agree with that. Now, let's call it Southern California. Southern California has used this tool, used it effectively, and really now are taking the fight back to the criminals. Now, for Northern California, I'll let them speak for themselves. I can tell you Southern California is doing quite well using Proposition 36.
Next question. Another Torrance resident wonders, what is the district attorney doing about judges who refuse to impose proper penalties on convicted criminals and permit release on recognizance instead of bail for serious offenses, sir?
Yes.
So the thing about Proposition 36 is it had one more interesting provision. I mean, it was kind of chock full of all these little nuances, but here I'll give you one that applies to the situation. In the old days, if it was just let's say it's even a misdemeanor in the police presence, so he actually could go ahead and do some level of an arrest. That arrest would be what's now called a cite and release. They basically write you a speeding ticket and tell you to show up in court in whatever it is, 60 or 90 days. Under Proposition 36, the police officer is obligated to take the person arrested in front of a judge. And the judge now has to make a bail decision, keep him in or not keep him in. Is that person flight risk? Does that person have a history of violating the law, which is by definition a Proposition 36 arrest, because they have to have 2 or more prior convictions to have a Proposition 36 arrest? And if so, we've seen a lot of these people not get arrested in the morning and be back at that 7-Eleven in the afternoon. So that's been a very good check on not even the judiciary that wanted to let them go. The judiciary didn't have even an option. They weren't even getting a case in the old days. So, and then with respect to other judges that they got used to sort of a situation where the DA's office wasn't opposing or even active in trying to hold people accountable, we're getting those judges used to it as well. Some judges were always there. Some judges will never be there. And we will oppose those judges every single time. But I'll tell you that the overwhelming majority of judges are trying to do a good job every day, trying to figure out what the law is in every single case, understand what the facts is, and apply the law to the facts. And that is the overwhelming number of people in our judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Another good question from another Torrance resident asking, let's start with the police chief and then maybe go right down the line here on this one. How will Torrance cooperate with ICE, federal ICE agents, when perpetrators are arrested under Prop 36 and eventually released?
Well, that process would happen long after our officers made that arrest in the field. So we in the Torrance Police Department and police departments across the state comply with the California Values Act. So our immigration status or enforcement is not a concern of the department, especially when we're making arrests like that.
Yeah, I wish I had powerful powers and I could order everyone in the government, state, federal, and local to do what I want, or at least include me in the decision making. Unfortunately, federal civil immigration enforcement does not coordinate with local law enforcement. They don't coordinate with local DA's offices. And sometimes it is frustrating. We had a situation very recently in our criminal courts building. We were going after a drug dealer. Drug dealer was in the middle of a preliminary hearing. Drug dealer actually was out on bail and was out to lunch that day, literally in the middle of his hearing. And ICE agents picked him up, stuffed him into a car, and off he went, which wasn't very helpful to my drug hearing, my preliminary hearing, because it had to stop. I don't know, that person may or may not ever come back and finish that hearing, which means that person will never get a drug felony conviction that we were prepared and have the evidence to prove in the court of law so that they got it. So they're not coordinating with us, and I wish they would, but that's not what they're doing. And as a result, you know, we at the DA's office, you know, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it as best we can. The sheriff and obviously local law enforcement, they even have a tougher job, trying to deal with something that they don't know is about to happen, but very often they have to deal with the repercussions of what happens with it in the community. And the last thought I'll give you is that a lot of the victims and witnesses who are part of our biggest cases can be documented or undocumented. They're both scared to come down to the courthouse now, because they don't know what's going to happen at a courthouse. That's not good for the criminal justice system here in this county. You know, very often we've actually had to have our investigators pick up witnesses in order to actually get them to come to court, because they don't want to come to court even if they're subpoenaed, because they don't know if ICE is literally lurking in the courthouse. So we'll get through this. You know, it might be a whole bunch of bumps in the road. We will get through this, but it is not an easy road that we're going through right now.
So with the LA County Sheriff's Department, we do not do civil immigration enforcement. As the chief said, not only do we follow Senate Bill 54, but for LA County, our policy for the county is even more strict than SB 54. But I want to explain something a little bit further. I've been in law enforcement for over 40 years. I am all about protecting victims, no matter who they are or where they come from, and putting suspects away that have victimized folks for whatever reason. Now, in the LA County jail system, I always give this statistic out that in 2024, we booked about 59,000 people in our system that year. That same year, we had requests from the federal government 995 times civil detainer requests. And those were for a variety of issues. Some serious, some not serious. We did not comply with one of those because state law and local county policy prohibits us from doing so. It takes away my discretion as the sheriff to do so. But for me, I wasn't completely just satisfied with that. So what I did last year, I started to lobby with the California Sheriff's Association and the Major County Sheriff's Association that in the county policy, it states clearly that if the federal authorities come forward with what you call a federal judicial warrant signed by a judge, then at that time you can turn over somebody who's in our custody. That's what I was lobbying for, because up to that point, the federal government had not issued one of those warrants for us. So my opinion was, if it's that serious, why aren't you doing your job? So what ends up happening is, by about the end of May, we start getting federal judicial warrant requests through the LA County jail system. So to date, we have about 60 of those, give or take one or two, and we have turned over about 27 or 28 to the federal authorities. And again, I'm emphasizing it's for a federal judicial warrant signed by a judge. And then the other remaining individuals are waiting for their cases to be adjudicated, as the DA just mentioned, because if they commit a crime here, they have to be accountable here. That is important, it is critical, and I'll end with this. Over 70% of the individuals being taken into custody by ICE, Border Patrol, and the other federal agencies have not or do not have a previous criminal history. About 30% of them do. Those are the worst of the worst. Nobody on this panel wants on our street. again, that's at 30%. The other 70% are the day laborers that are getting chased around Home Depots with guys holding rifles, or car washes, or grabbing the taco lady off the sidewalk. So that's the 70% that we're seeing getting taken into custody.
Sheriff, thank you very, very much. Next question for the Torrance Police
If they're here
Chief.
illegally, they broke
And
the
I think
crime.
business people here are encouraged that we're not seeing
They should leave.
as many